in that way, do you have any tips then in terms of accepting support? Because someone in a situation where they're potentially feeling anxious, they're potentially projecting negative perceptions of others onto themselves. So I just think of a few examples of sort of friends and stuff who I think would potentially sort of, admit that they're not the best at sort of accepting support sometimes. So how do I suppose you get around potentially that idea of not wanting to accept the support that's offered to you?
Look, that is such a core challenge for us as human beings in a society where we tend to associate strength and emotional strength with a sense of stoic style, a strong upper lip, being able to handle just about any kind of situation. That's often how we think of strength. But I think of it differently as a psychologist, and you learn this early on when you see people. I learnt this a lot in the first year or two. What you'd notice again is that two levels of difficulty people would have. There's the problem they have, and then there's their non-acceptance or shame of the problem. So this is the way I tended to put it to people, that we're talking about the notion of strength. It's really about security or insecurity. And it comes back to this, that as human beings, we're all vulnerable. Vulnerable means that we can be hurt, but also we can be touched. It's got the positive side as well as the negative side. Like the difference between humans and robots is we have that vulnerability. We can be hurt and we can be touched. Now, what emotional security is accepting that vulnerability, accepting we can be hurt, we can be touched, we can be in touch with that human side of ourselves. But there are two ways that people can be insecure and not accept their vulnerability. One form of insecurity is thinking, look, I feel bad, I feel hurt, and I can't stand it. But another way of experiencing that insecurity is, oh, I'm not hurt. No, this isn't going to affect me. Oh, I'm on top of this. Oh, there might be all the stress in the world, but no, I'm okay. And that's actually not strength. That's insecurity. Because to me, emotional security is being able to accept our vulnerability, which is, look, I might feel bad, I might feel a bit overwhelmed at times or whatever, but I can manage with that. And I can be open to drawing on the support of other people. So it's partly how we define strength or think of that. And so I think a core of dealing with anxiety and difficulties generally is ourselves learning to accept our vulnerability, which I should add, I found that very difficult as a young man. We'll talk about this more in the next episode with depression, but I went through a couple of depressions in my earlier life, and a lot of it was because of expectations I had on myself and a difficulty accepting that vulnerability and thinking I should be on top of things. So we might talk about more some of those themes next time as well, but ultimately, it's a sign of being enlightened to be open to the support of other people. And that's one of the best things I gained from going through a tough time. I learnt to accept the love and the goodwill of others when I needed that help from others, and it made it easier from then on.